Huge news, everyone! I am here to share my research about sheep in space. Well, it's more like sheep within some space inside a pen, and instead of maybe a rocket or space station, we have like a live export ship. I guess you could say I'm investigating the use of different stocking densities on live export ships, and not so much the prevalence of intergalactic ruminants. I'm sure we've all heard of Australia's live sheep export industry, and I know that some of you are for it and that some of you are probably against it. Unfortunately, I don't care. The animal welfare concerns surrounding the live X industry are complex, and while we all agree that we want good welfare for animals on these ships, many of us disagree about what this means. My name is Bonnie, and instead of asking you or me what good welfare on these ships might look like, I'm instead going to ask the animals. When we consider the idea of animal welfare, we're really trying to ask animals about how they feel about their current environment. And unfortunately, it's not as simple as emailing them a request to submit a star rating or review for their recent ocean cruise experience. Instead, we simulate the conditions of interest and measure a combination of physiological and behavioural responses. Now, I'm specifically interested in how much space sheep require on board live export vessels, which is largely determined by the number of different behaviours they need to exhibit in that time. Live export voyages generally last 15 to 30 plus days, but it's not exactly clear what behaviours are critical for this length of time or subsequently how much space is required. To find this out, I'm going to be housing sheep under different stocking densities and then do 3 things that would be considered pretty inappropriate if this wasn't in a research setting. Number 1, I'm drawing blood. Not a lot, lucky for the sheep, but enough so that I can count their white blood cells, as these can actually change in response to stress. Number 2, I'm filming them. Like all hours of the day and night kind of filming them, incessantly scoring everything they do to the point where I may never regain my sanity kind of filming them. And number 3, fecal sampling, straight from the rectal impella, and I don't need to tell you what part of the body that is. This is handy because stress hormones are actually excreted in the poo, and while I've managed to come to terms with this invasive procedure from a scientific perspective for the most part, just please, no diarrhea. So in 65 years, when I will have finished the behavioural analysis for my PhD, I should have a pretty good idea about how much space sheep need on these voyages in order to do the things they want to do and avoid becoming stressed. This knowledge can then be used on board the vessels to improve the welfare of these animals, and then I'm moving straight onto the intergalactic ruminant thing because that sounds awesome.